Exactly 1 week ago, I uploaded a video making 100 melodies. What started out to be a simple grindy challenge turned out to be an editing nightmare, a fight against technology, and even a struggle with addiction. Nonetheless, a fun, crazy obstacle to overcome. Here is the complete story of how I went from 0 to 100 in this musical challenge. So there I was, doing that thing that everyone else does these days, thinking of ways that I can get views on short form content. I've been putting in time to this channel for more years than most of you even know. But most recently, of course, I've been focused on my music production, and well, my beat videos haven't really been popping off, so I'm like, well, maybe I can go viral by showing off the behind the scenes footage of how I make my beats. And that, my friends, is exactly what I did. And well, the reaction I got was mild, I guess you could say, but you know, getting 100 likes from no followers at all is pretty impressive, and you know, it's something that I kind of kept in the back of my head, but it wasn't enough. I really wasn't seeing the continued growth that I had imagined. To be honest, maybe these comments can offer an explanation as to why. I got absolutely caught up thinking to myself, damn, are my drums really that weak? I was trying my very best to convince myself that my hi-hats had the sauce. I know in my head and in my life, I want to become a successful content creator and music producer, so I am not quitting. It's not an option. I had to come back. What can I do though to prove to myself and to these random people in my comments that I can make an absolute heater every single time that I hear this beautiful, beautiful sound? So we have two problems that we need to solve with one idea. Two birds and precisely one stone. We need a video that takes my mild 100 likes and adds some spice, some gosh darn flavor to the mix and bump those numbers up. We also need to take this dub over those lame nerds that got me thinking that I am not a hitman. I don't have the hits yet, but we are talking about manifestation over here, so get with it. Come on now. So there I was, thinking about how I'm about to 720 insta-swap these two birds that were in my way, and it came to me all of a sudden. I'm gonna put myself through the gosh darn ringer. I need to level up. I need to upgrade. I need to make myself an absolute boss so that no one can come up with a reason to talk down on my name, talk down on my beats. That's the level of success that I want to get to. I'm gonna make 100 melodies in a row. No drums, no samples, only my brain and the piano roll. Well, I sat on this idea for a few hours, checked my school website. Of course, I saw I had some upcoming assignments that are definitely piling up. And of course, with this information, I would do what any other sensible person would do and nosedive like a freaking dolphin into this music and start making melodies. You know the vibe, you get it. My mind was clear. There is nothing left for me to do than turn on my camera and make music. It's gonna be a long 100, I swear. It's already 20 minutes in, but there's a lot of cool sounds that I'm hearing in here. I'm gonna call it for number 2. 30 minutes in, baby. Yo, I just did the math. If I'm gonna keep up on this pace, then I would be sitting in this chair for 25 hours. So we're gonna have to speed things up a little bit. At the time, I had no idea what I was getting into. You'll see at the end, I did end up speeding things up a little bit, but not much. Like I said, I did make some melodies very quickly, quicker than I ever have before. But I also make some melodies that took me 30 to 45 minutes to perfect the sound to try to match exactly what I heard in my head. That being said, it was a rough time getting started. I had this insane motivation driving me towards my goal, but I kept running into problems. What kept happening to me is a problem that almost everyone who has ever used a computer can relate to. My PC was on the absolute grind, trying to keep up with what I needed it to do. Pigments and Keyscape are the two main plugins that I was using, and they also happen to take up the most memory out of any plugins to ever see FL Studio, and well, trying to record it all, Pigments kept crashing and made me have to force close the application. Time and time again. Sometimes I was able to save and eventually open that file again, but other times it would literally just crash and I would lose the file forever. And this is the second time that this has happened. My PC is trash. You see, it is garbage. It is trash. Why does it do this? I need to pause it every time I want to open pigments, man.
Are you sure about that?
It crashed. It f***ing crashed. And I just decided not to save it. Eventually, I was able to get into a flow state where I was making melodies back to back to back. This is by far the most music I've ever made in one day. I'm definitely not going to make it to 100 because I've put in at least 4 hours, but I've been at it for a freaking minute. Unfortunately, I did not make these melodies for 24 hours straight. I did have a couple of times where I was going for 4 to 5 hours, but that is about the peak that I could mentally handle at the time. I was also busy with a lot of other things, so maybe there will come a time where I can go 24 hours straight in FL Studio, but who knows. Anyways, when you're making music for hours on end with little breaks in between, your mind just starts to run out of ideas. I came into this challenge wanting to make 100 dope melodies, but I didn't even come close to that. Whew, that's kind of fire. It sort of hurts you when you force yourself not to make drums, especially for me. That's the workflow that I understand so well nowadays. I would hear a drum pattern after making the first part of the melody, and normally I would go, okay, it's time to throw some drums on it. I would hear these drums and feel inspired, and then after that, you know, I'd bridge from there to make a counter melody. Sometimes I would take that route to make my beats. But when you take away that backbone of being able to, you know, throw some drums on it, you're forced to kind of think differently and come up with a melody instead that you otherwise wouldn't have come up with. I did get used to this after a while, and maybe it was beneficial in the end, but at times it just murdered my creativity and I literally could not make anything dope at all. Understandably, there was a few times where I was feeling slightly frustrated. You know, I just wanted to break out of this shell that I created for myself and wanted to make some drums. It felt amazing. I felt like a bird experiencing flight for the first time. I was finally able to throw some drums on it, even though I've been resisting for so long. Let's go. I'm not supposed to really be making beats, but I couldn't help myself. Come on now. Real talk though, I got some real stuff I need to be doing, but I'm literally addicted to making beats. I was absolutely driven to finish this challenge. What kept me going was that idea of the video, the title in the back of my head, see the thumbnail already. Once I really got in there, the finish line was eventually starting to creep up, and it kind of started to seem like a possibility that I could actually do this thing. I couldn't be stopped by anything until I got stopped. All this momentum came to a crash. I was in class and I had assignments that were due. They were late. They were stacking up faster than my melody count was. I was stressed out. Even through all that, subconsciously, something let me know where my priorities should be. And for some reason, my brain was convinced that I needed to work on this challenge and not do any schoolwork. That's what I did. Eventually I would set aside small amounts of time in between, and there was kind of times where I would be setting aside time for beats, and it would be the other way around. But by the end of the 100 melodies, I ended up finishing all the assignments that were due at the time. The feeling was absolutely magnificent. So going into this, like I said, I had a chip on my shoulder. I had to make sure that I got so much better at the end of it. So I had a few goals that I was kind of putting to the back of my mind. Some things that I specifically wanted to get better at.
My main goal
was I just got a brand new synthesizer called Pigments. 100% worth it, and I just wanted to learn how to use it a little bit more. Know what the different elements do. I never really used the synthesizer, never had Omnisphere, nothing like that. Next goal I had was that I wanted to get faster at making melodies. By the end of this video, if you keep a close eye on the timer, you'll really see how much faster I get between each melody. Next up, I've had this little baby MIDI keyboard for a while, this Elisa's, and I actually love this. It's really great, multi-purpose, got a drum pad and all that. No, I have a little bit of experience on keys, but not much. I just wanted to get better, I always tend to go straight into the piano roll, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I dedicated time to make only melodies with the keyboard. What? That was like the exact sound that I just made with my mouth. And last, I wanted to try to make 100 good melodies. Only heaters, only bangers. You will see definitely. Some of these are some absolute trash. I'm not even gonna lie. Some of these are actually like, whew. I made some of the best melodies that I made over the course of the 100, and I've also made some really bad melodies. But the key thing is that I was able to move on, and then the next melody, or 2 melodies after, I was able to make some of the best ones. And people, we achieve all these goals, and you show me how much you love this video, then I will go back and add drums to each and every single melody that I create in this video. Maybe even make an album out of the best beats for you to listen to. So yeah, you know what to do. Show me how much you like this idea. insane challenge, and it took me almost an entire day collectively to get all the way to 100. And if you're interested, there is also a 1-hour video of all the melodies cut up, straight music making, linked in the description and also at the end of the video. So be on the lookout for that. But we made it. And I'm so proud of you for making it all the way to the end. And more importantly, turning that big red button gray. What an absolute legend you are. So here are some things that I found after my melody making wisdom has accumulated over the making of this video. The first thing that I found was making beats tired is hard. Don't get me wrong, you can still make good music sometimes, but a lot of the time the meaning is taken away from it when you don't have a good motivation. And a lot of times you can't have amazing ideas. Some ideas are just straight mid, or dare I say it, trash. And that's okay, because you just have to have the power to realize that and move on to the next one. Because the next one's gonna be fire and you're gonna learn from your mistakes. You gotta believe that. The next thing that I found was not making drums can help but also hurt. It can help further your creativity on a beat. Sometimes you can't hear a melody in your head, but you can hear a drum pattern, and then, you know, like I said, you can hear that drum pattern. After that, you then end up hearing like a bass line or a counter melody. You know how that goes. By forcing yourself not to make drums, it might make you think a little bit differently about how you want to make melodies and think outside the box, but it also can ruin your creativity, and that happened multiple times for me. My third finding is a lot of times nowadays I find myself making beats when I already have a melody in mind or a certain sound that I want to achieve. The motivation when you make music this way is very high, but when you're making melodies back to back to back to back to back, you start to run out of ideas. And like I said, you start pulling out melodies out of the freaking abyss and trying to make something with no direction. And I said it multiple times that it might just be a personal problem, but I was just making some freaking noise. I don't really know what I was doing. I took it as learning points, which was valuable, of course. Basically, what I'm saying is the motivation for a sample or sound should be clear before you want to make a melody, because when you have that direction, it has so much more meaning to the music behind it. A lot of times, more often than not, making those types of melodies as opposed to just clicking through a synth and trying to find a sound that might sound cool and then pulling a melody out of nowhere. I hope that makes sense. Another thing that I found, take note of how much memory your computer and programs are using, because your FL Studio is gonna crash on you. Please just save your projects, because you're gonna thank yourself when your thing crashes. I tell you, just trust me, alright? Alright.